Good afternoon. I'm Mark Allen with Gaper.io, and I'm here today with Zach Gobst, the CEO of Leapcure. Good afternoon, Zach.
Hey, Mark. Good afternoon.
How you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing well. We have some very nice weather here in the Bay Area today, so and things are starting to open up, so there is hope.
Yeah. No, excited to go to do some curbside pickup at retail and see what else is coming up next. So it's definitely looking up.
It's going to be an interesting week. So can you share a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Yeah, totally. So my background, I founded Leapcure 5 years ago. I'm the CEO, and I've been working in the industry that, clinical research, clinical trials, for about 6 years. Prior to that, worked in finance, management consulting, and scaling tech companies. The work that we're doing at Leapcure is helping speed up clinical trials, primarily through advocacy group partnerships to help accelerate patient engagement and improve participation rates in clinical trials. And so, my background before kind of helped me get here, understanding how to scale technology, understanding, business processes, process improvements, and kind of, pulling together teams of distinct capabilities and kind of making sure the ship stays afloat. So I'm still learning as I go, though. 5 years in, I'm being reminded every day that there's a lot I still don't know.
Yeah, well, we're all learning as we go every day, that never ends, especially if you're in technology, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What has been your experience with remote employment, both as a remote employee and a remote employer?
Yeah, so it's been a part of our company's DNA from the beginning. So we started in LA, and then we were accepted into 500 startups. And in going through that accelerator, it caused some of us to move, some of us to stay in LA. And so, we've always had to find some way to collaborate digitally. As we grew our business, we expanded to the UK. So we have a remote employee in the UK, heads a lot of our international partnership work, as well as, build our engineering and development team in Colombia, is where we decided to augment our engineering team. And so for us, it's always been something that we've had to get comfortable with. It forces you to kind of communicate in a different way because you have to be kind of more explicit. But it gives us the ability to understand different cultures and not miss a beat. And so I'd say that working remote has been a great strength of ours, and it's a muscle we've kind of figured out how to develop since at least for the past 5 years.
Oh, very good. So you just mentioned 3 different continents. Do you have customers on all 3 continents, or do you have even more?
Yeah. So customers and users on all 3. Working in clinical trials, we work on a lot of global projects, primarily in North America and Europe, but we've also worked in South America, Africa, Asia, Australia. Our work kind of touches most of the globe just because the human is the same for the most part, and so we're trying to help bring new treatments to market that can help people across the world.
Yeah, so pretty much everywhere but the 2 poles, huh?
Yeah. Well, if they had clinical research sites, we'd be helping there too. So.
Yeah, this is true. So what's been your takeaway from this experience of having a remote team?
I like it. I'd say you have to figure out the right routines with time zones, obviously, in my case. I think that you have to figure out the right blend of like video versus, using calls and structuring touch points. You're not going to just run into someone and be able to have a conversation. You have to kind of get in front of a lot more. But I'd say for the most part, it's something that, once you kind of have your structure around, really helps you get a full sense of like how to take advantage of different opportunities. Having a recruitment lead in the UK, for example, allows us to have a glimpse into, how we can meet the cultural needs when we're running projects in the UK, Germany, France, Spain. That proximity really makes a big difference. And so being able to have that touch point of someone who feels like they're part of your team, but also can, represent the culture closer to where they are makes a huge impact for us and helps make sure that, we can provide our services globally at scale without missing a beat.
Mm-hmm. So Since you seem to be well versed in remote development and employment, what do you think is the future of remote employment, and what do you think can be done differently to make it more effective?
Yeah, I think that, a lot of what we've had to do to build, a culture while being remote has kind of come on us to kind of go figure out, like in January, I flew my team out to the UK to kind of all meet together just so, we were able to be together for a few weeks before, we work with someone every day that's remote. I think that there are a lot of norms in person that would be great to happen, with remote work as well. And so I don't know exactly what it will be, but I'd say that figuring out a way to kind of build and maintain and cultivate a culture that's remote instead of forcing people to have to be in person to be able to develop that type of culture. I'd like to see that happen. How it happens, I don't know, but I imagine it's going to become more normal just because, people have different skill sets that are useful, different understandings of different cultures. There are a lot of strengths to remote work that aren't going to go away and are creating advantages. So finding a way to just kind of make sure that, people feel like they're a part of the same team even more, I think will be a big benefit when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. So what is the story behind Leapcure? You've touched on what you do, but can you go into a little more detail about, what your offering is?
Yeah. So prior to starting Leapcure, I worked in early mobile clinical trials. So the company I worked at before was looking to become like the Uber of clinical trials, sending staff to the home, running clinical trials in the home. What I'd seen there was that one of the big drivers of success was less to do about the mobility piece and more to do about the behaviors of, who's interested in clinical trials and which research sites are most likely to want outside people to join versus just dealing with the people that see them every day. And so we started Leapcure to really focus on the behavioral data, and that led us to working with advocacy groups because we found working with advocacy groups, we were finding patients that were, that basically knew all the other clinical trials going on. They're raising their hands. They're ready to make lifestyle choices to incorporate clinical trials right now. And so from there, we kind of built on, how do we make, clinical trials more centered around these patient advocacy groups that are so ready to join them rather than kind of restrict them and force them to have to search for them, kind of bring the clinical trials to them. And so we've kind of evolved our business from that is kind of putting the patient first and putting those advocacy groups at the center of clinical trial innovation.
Interesting. So is it safe to say you actually connect advocacy groups with clinical research?
It's exactly that. Yeah. And so whatever study we're working on, we'll kind of take a look at which advocacy group partners we have and which ones are out there that might be interested, where they might be focused on the same type of research that's going on from a research sponsor, and just making sure that there's those connection points that can make, a campaign effective between the two, that keeps the advocacy groups, providing information that the constituents are looking for, that the communities are looking for, and helping, the researchers, figure out, if this advocacy group's a good fit for them, why not, and how do we evolve our research to be more centered around them.
Very interesting. I would imagine your offerings are rather popular right now.
Yeah. So we're seeing a lot of, so given how adaptive we have to be to the voice of the patient, we're seeing a lot of coronavirus work right now, where we're helping on the fly, with coronavirus is relatively unprecedented in terms of study design. The design choices are being made on the fly and changed as we go to be more flexible or, support, new scientific needs that are emerging. And so, yeah, we're quite busy trying to help connect patients in that way and trying to create a better experience for, coronavirus, whether, it's people who survived it and are donating plasma or are at risk and are considering a clinical trial. We're seeing a lot of demand right now.
I would imagine. So it sounds like you started out as a remote company. Did you have a plan in place, or did you just kind of learn it as you went?
I guess in that regard, it was, I think it goes along with our philosophy more than anything. I think we wanted to get the right people on the team, and we didn't want to restrict ourselves to having to pay top dollar in LA or the Bay Area
Mm.
Even if those people were in those places, you know, if we have to pay top dollar, who says they're going to be here anyway? And so for us, it's always been our approach to kind of have an open mind about where the most talented person is going to be and who's the right fit for the organization. And more often than not, that person is not like your next door neighbor. That person could be anywhere in the world. And so, yeah, I think, you know, as our business needs have changed, as we try to, you know, find the best candidate for the right role, you know, remote has continued to be, you know, one of the best options.
Mm. So interesting. We've talked about the pandemic, and it sounds like you're involved in it somewhat. But it forced a lot of companies to go remote on, I think the date was March 16th here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Did that cause any roadblocks or challenges that you didn't expect?
Yeah. So when we hire people, we like to do some amount of work in person before we kind of let them loose and we're just good. So we've hired people and like, I've not seen this person face to face. It's a little bit out of our comfort zone, but it's not the first time we've done it. But when you're hiring leadership for your company in some way, you know, there are things that you have to do. And so we've, on one hand, like, you know, it's a little bit funny that, you know, we've never seen each other in person, but on the other hand, like, you know, no one's really doing anything on weekends. We can do weekend work and like we're finding actually that we're working in terms of number of hours, more hours than we otherwise would, and kind of building a rapport that way. So, it's just different. But I'd say in some ways better. And, you know, the way that we're able to kind of focus on what's in front of us, get work done, coronavirus has given us that opportunity, for better or for worse. You know, there's not a lot of outside distractions right now. So
This is true.
in that ways, it's glass half full. But yeah, it's outside of your comfort zone a little bit that, you know, someone who's going to be really crucial to your business that you'd usually want to meet face to face and kind of, you know, get more alignment with. You can only do so much to do that right now, and you kind of have to go with what you've got. So, but yeah, I like to look at glass half full more. So I think you know, it's provided us with good opportunities. Unfortunately, you know, we're in a space where you know, opportunities are emerging because of coronavirus for us to help and provide services.
Yeah. So you actually have hired someone in the last 7 weeks?
Yeah. What have we done? Hired a couple people.
Wow.
So not too many. Like we're doing okay, but yeah, it's an interesting situation, and it is scary to hire right now too, because, you know, when this all hit, half the clinical trials just stopped, and there was a time where I was like, you know, planning out, like, if I had to furlough everyone or cut everyone's pay, well, how do I handle this? These are things that went through my mind. But then, fortunately, we're in a position where, you know, clinical trials have to move forward in certain places, and you know, we got lucky in that regard, and we're seeing some of our deal flow move along. So, fortunate for us, you know, we have to grow, and we hired out of need more so than, you know, it's just fun to grow. The coronavirus projects have required us to build out our infrastructure in different ways to kind of meet the new demands.
Very interesting. So there are companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups. How important do you think these services will be going forward for companies that need to hire people quickly, but as we've said, they need the right people, not just the person closest to them?
Yeah, no, I think it's big. You know, I think the way that people think of hiring has evolved and is going to evolve even more from coronavirus. And so, you know, specific solutions that kind of facilitate that process are definitely in a good space. I believe in it. So, yeah, certainly, you know, when you're thinking about how you want to, you know, hire, scale, you know, remote should always be a part of the way that you think of how that's done. There might be some things where if it's, you know, it absolutely can't be done virtually, then sure. But if it can be done virtually, I think opening yourself up to a larger talent pool that might have more of your specific needs can only help you.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And I think you're going to see that going forward more and more, that people now are more comfortable with it. So they're going to be more open to, oh, maybe the best person is in Iowa. So let's bring that person on board. Or the best person's in the Ukraine. Who knows?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, Zach, this has been fascinating today. You're in a very interesting field, and I wish you well. And I want to thank you for your time today.
Yeah, Mark, pleasure meeting you. Thanks for the time.
Have a great day.
You too. Take care.